Alrighty, thanks for voting in the poll, everyone. My name is Scott Kalanico. Today's webinar is the most effective way to start a sales call and keep it going. I want to thank all of you for attending here and voting, taking the time to vote in that poll. I'll go ahead and close that poll and share it with our audience at large. So our question today was, what is your average revenue per year for each new MSP client? And our poll results, I will now share with our guest, Mr. Raj Khera. How are you doing, sir?
Very good, Scott. Thank you for having me here today.
No worries. Okay, just before we get into the nitty-gritty of things, I just wanted to show you that poll. What are some of your thoughts on that?
Well, that's interesting because as I talk to clients and prospects, that's kind of the distribution that we see. The reason I asked this poll was to find out what kind of investment, or at least get you thinking about what kind of investment you might need to make in your sales efforts and your marketing efforts to acquire a client. So if you take a look at these, if you say the average is maybe $5,000, maybe $7,500 or something like that per year for a client, and that client stays with you for say 5 years, maybe even longer, maybe 7 years. If you just multiply that together, you're looking at about a $30,000 to maybe $50,000 customer lifetime value of that client. So as we talk about the sales questions today, think about what kind of impact that could have to your business, getting $50,000 in brand new customer lifetime value.
All right, excellent. Thanks, Raj. What I need to do now is I need to now hide this poll. Thank you, everyone, and I'll make you our presenter. You now have complete control, sir. And while you're getting set up over there, I'll talk about our some of the housekeeping things we have going here. Everyone, thank you again for attending the webinar. This webinar is being recorded. It's being recorded right now, and we'll make it available on our website at mspbusinessmanagement.com, on our YouTube channel, and on our podcast channel on iTunes. You'll be getting a link from the GoToMeeting software in probably about Monday next week with the URL where you can download this, and you can download the MP3, watch the video, and subscribe to the podcast. Feel free to ask questions during the webinar. We're going to keep this, we want to keep it interactive. You can see a little, if you see a little, the question interface down there at the bottom of your GoToMeeting software. If you just type your question in there, and it'll come to me, and then I'll pass it on to Raj. We're going to save about 15 minutes at the end for a Q&A. And go ahead and ask everything, ask away. If we don't get to your questions during the webinar, I'll be sending all these to Raj, and he can take a look at them. And Raj, you can answer in your own time, I guess.
Will do.
Okay. All right. Excellent. And I am in Scotland. I am actually on the other side of the pond now, so hopefully everything will sound good. We do have bagpipers coming in the window sometimes, so I'll go mute while Raj is making his presentation. And if you're already there, Sir Raj, go ahead and take it away.
Well, thank you very much, Scott. We're actually I'm located in Rockville, Maryland, so this is just north of Washington, D.C. We're about 20 minutes from downtown D.C. Thanks for joining us today. I think you're going to find this webinar very useful. I've packed loads of actual sales questions into this presentation. This is content that you can put to use immediately to help you find new business opportunities and close more sales. And as a bonus for attending, as you might have seen in the write-up that we'd sent out, I'll be sending you a copy of the guidebook that contains a list of questions that you can use in different scenarios to help grow your business. So you can take notes if you'd like, but all of the questions that I'll be presenting will be part of that guide that you'll be getting, I guess, probably early next week. So a little bit about me. Just to give you a sense of who I am, I actually have a couple of engineering degrees. I'm an engineering major who's turned into a business person. I used to work as an engineer for about 9 years or so, and I got the itch to start my own company. That was about 20 years ago, so that's 1994 when I started it. Had some pretty good successes along the way. I've built 3 companies, all technology-based companies. I'm currently the CEO of MailerMailer. This is my latest company. It's actually about a 12-year-old company. And one of the tools that we make is called Prestacular. It's an email marketing and newsletter and blog tool that includes a library of articles just for IT companies. And earlier this year, I also wrote a book called the IT Marketing Crash Course, and it very quickly went to #1 on Amazon in 3 different business categories. And some of you may have read the book. It's pretty insightful for MSPs on how you can actually grow your business. So let's get right into it. Most people, most technical people, don't like to sell. And I should clarify this. I speak with a lot of IT companies, a lot of small companies, and I hear over and over again that people are comfortable closing a deal when they're in front of a qualified prospect. Well, yeah, that's actually the easy part, right? If you're talking to somebody who's well qualified, then you have a high chance of getting them to sign. The challenge is getting them to the table in the first place. So one thing you could do is to look at who's already at the table. I mean, the easiest way to get more sales is to offer additional options to your existing customers. These are the people who already put their faith in you for many of their technology needs. Now, they might not see your sales reps anymore because they've already been sold on you. Small technology service firms might not have individual sales reps to be the liaison between your clients and your technical staff. So that means that the people closest to your existing customers are your technical team members. These are the engineers, the technicians, the customer support reps who interact with your clients daily. They are your hidden sales team. They're the problem solvers that your clients have grown to rely on and trust. And trust enables a lot of things to happen. When clients trust your technology recommendations and your solutions, you become part of their inner circle of advisors. And your team's suggestions mean a lot because without them, your client would have to find another reliable source for technology or suffer the consequences of bad technical judgment calls. You are as important as their lawyer or their accountant because they know that you've got their best interest in mind. So you want to get people to trust you enough to bring them to the table so that you can have that conversation. And there's no need to call somebody that you've never spoken with and be met with a cold shoulder. There's actually a very straightforward way to warm up these so-called cold calls by sprinkling a little bit of magic before you even pick up the phone. Here's what I mean. Think about your own buying habits for a minute. How do you make business decisions? How do you gather information to make the right decisions for your own business? Do you read checklists? Do you look at white papers, ebooks, industry articles? I know I do. That's one of the biggest ways I find out information before I buy a product or a service. Do you like to see case studies of companies like yours? Again, I know I do. That's certainly one thing that I look to explore. Or do you prefer to buy things off of sales letters and brochures? I know I don't. Probably you don't either. And chances are your prospects are no different. So that corporate brochure that you might have just spent a few $1,000s on, well, sorry to say, but that usually ends up in the trash. An educational piece, well, that's a different story. That one actually gets passed around to other people. So what do your prospects think about? Well, let's take football as an example here. A professional football coach doesn't go into a game unprepared. There's very careful, very deliberate planning. They want to know everything they could possibly know about their target before making their first move. They want to know how that target might react in various situations so that they can plan all of their plays and their strategies accordingly. And your game plan should also have a lot of preparation. So some of the things that your prospect might actually be thinking about are things like this: tools to keep your company's data secure, tips for choosing a cloud backup solution, negotiating a strong service level agreement, how to protect your data during a power outage, how to keep your company's network secure. Now, if you called up somebody and you tried to pitch your data backup services, but they were just recovering from an insider security breach, the data backup solution that you're pitching would not be top of mind for them. On the other hand, if you knew they were just hit by that crypto locker malware that's spreading really fast right now, your dialogue could be completely different. So if you could know what their hot buttons are, like which of these articles they're reading. For example, if you knew that they were interested in data security and ways that hackers could socially engineer their companies, you'd know how to pitch them. You would be armed with the information you need to make a successful call. So put yourself in the prospect's shoes for a second here. You don't want to be sold. You want to buy. So before you call and start sharing, before you call actually, you should start sharing information to educate them and to find out what they respond to, what their needs are. Share blogs, share ebooks, share white papers, checklists, infographics, newsletters. This is where leveraging other people's time comes in really handy. I would say to you, stop doing the $10 an hour work yourself. Go get someone to write articles for you, or you could subscribe to a service like ours to do that. It's very cost effective, it's very professional, it saves a lot of time. You could use a graphic designer to make some infographics for you. Maybe reformat some of these pieces that you've put together into ebooks or some slide presentations. You could even hire a student intern to work in your office or even remotely to turn some of these things into videos. Well, the point is that people access information from many different channels. So be out there in many different channels. The hardest part is going to be getting that initial article. After that, just the repurposing part, that's relatively easy. Just leverage outside resources to help accelerate this for you. Again, if you just keep doing $10 an hour work yourself, you'll never have time to actually grow your business. Well, once you have that educational material, which is way better than the sales brochure, you can do a lot. For example, you can use the articles that you wrote or that you acquired to stay in touch with all of those people whose business cards that you've collected over the years, which are probably collecting dust on a shelf somewhere. Calling everybody on your list could be very time-consuming, and it's probably not worth the effort. Instead of calling everybody, send them educational articles. Not everybody's going to be interested, but those who are going to represent your most engaged contacts. This example shows a newsletter that's got 3 different types of articles. When readers click on these articles, you will know exactly what they are interested in. Your email analytics tool will show you all of the details. So a quick side note, the right tool, just as you know with the RMM tool that you use, it gives you superpowers. Here's an example of what ours looks like. It shows what this particular contact is reading. So if you send them an article on cloud computing, one article on security, maybe another one on data backup, you can see who is interested in what. And then when you start to spot these trends over time, in other words, when you start to see the same 10 people clicking on every cloud computing article that you send, and they're not your clients, you're going to know exactly who to reach out to and start a conversation on cloud computing. Your call is no longer a cold call. It is a warm call because you know what they are interested in. In my book, I call email newsletters the ultimate keep-in-touch tool. They really are a major time saver to help get people interested in your services and to show you who is actually interested. In other words, it's going to show you precisely where your low-hanging fruit is. As you start to see who's interested in what, calling them becomes significantly easier. And you can feed this information to your other team members. You know, that hidden sales force that I mentioned earlier, the people, the engineers, technicians, customer support reps. It doesn't have to be just for your salespeople. You can use your entire force to start these types of conversations, maybe upsell some existing customers. They have an advantage. The client doesn't see them as threatening, like they might see a salesperson. Sometimes they do. In many cases, you have peer-to-peer relationships with them. Again, that leads to trust. So teach your team what questions that they should be asking so that they can actually go out and find new opportunities for you. So I'm going to get into a series of very specific questions you can ask in a moment. But first, let's take a look at the mindset of a prospect when you call. They're thinking about more than just technology. Now, you might be there just to support their technical work, but they have a much broader view of their business. They're dealing with all kinds of other problems that need solving. So try to see the world through your client's eyes. Once you've established trust, you can start inquiring about other things, maybe like their business plans and their goals, the obstacles that they're trying to overcome, and their wish list for an ideal world. So the key here is to really engage your clients in an open-ended dialogue about their whole business, not just their technology issues. Well, your technical team may not have a business background, but they can be trained to ask leading questions that start conversations about a client's high-level needs. So when they share this newly found data with your team at staff meetings, say, that might be a really good way to share that. You may start to spot trends across multiple clients. And if you do, you'll start to see opportunities for maybe adding a new product line or a new service. You also start to gain insight into ways to position your company to make these new sales. You want to get clients to say this: I didn't know your company did that. Talk to me. You don't want to see a valuable client choosing another company for, say, telecommunications services because they thought you only provided data backup and recovery and nothing else. You don't want them to say something like, I didn't know your company did that. We just hired someone else for it. Well, if you go to them after they've selected another vendor, you're going to hear unfortunate comments like, oh, I didn't know you guys did that. Sorry, we just signed a 2-year contract with this other company. Well, not only is that going to be a shock to your gut and to your wallet, now you've let another cat in the house. That's bad news that could have been avoided. You've got competition because that telecom company probably also offers managed services, and they're trying to get a piece of your action. One of the biggest mistakes that many of us make is not just salespeople or engineers, is that we talk too much. Now remember, a sales conversation is a dialogue. It is not a monologue. When a client asks you, do you do XYZ? What's your typical response? For most companies, it's, yes, here's what we do. And then you start to rattle off your list of things that you do. Well, this way of responding forces you into a very narrow view of a potential opportunity. Sure, you can solve what the client thinks is their problem, and so can a lot of other people. But remember, the client has a lot of business issues that go well beyond technology. So if you respond a different way, you can actually put together the entire picture. So instead of saying, yes, here's what we do, say this. Say, well, tell me more about what you're looking to do. Now, when you say it this way, you're allowing the dialogue to develop. You get to find out why they're pursuing certain technology options and not others. And the benefit to this approach is that you can see if their line of thinking actually makes any sense. You might have a better solution. So here is a real long series of different types of questions you can ask in different scenarios. Remember, if you're doing too much talking, you are not listening. So one of these questions is, what kind of things go wrong in your daily operations? A consultant named Andy Rudin, he was a salesperson for a large services company, and he learned the hard way just how important it is to ask the right questions. So Andy was meeting with a prospect who is a large multinational company that ships its products all over the world. He asked them what kind of things go wrong in their daily operations. And he found out that sometimes people put the wrong load on a truck so that a shipment that's meant for Memphis, Tennessee ends up in Minneapolis, Minnesota instead. And Andy felt that he'd hit on a major pain point for the company. So he went back to his office and he wrote a proposal worth several $100,000s to help this client solve its problems. This was just a tiny fraction of this company's operations, so Andy could have saved them a lot of money, well more than the investment they would have had to make to fix the issue. Well, what happened? The client declined. Why? Well, as Andy analyzed what happened, he discovered that there was one big question that was left unanswered. Sure, he asked, what kinds of things go wrong in your daily operations? But the question he didn't ask was, does it matter if the wrong products are shipped? In other words, do these things matter? Do these problems matter? For this particular case, it turned out that receiving the wrong products wasn't really a big deal for this company. The stores would simply put the products on their shelves and just sell them anyway. So remember to ask that follow-up question. In another situation, Andy was selling an Oracle upgrade. The conversation was not going anywhere. Then he looked around the room and he noticed something, and he thought to himself, why are there 8 people in the room? He didn't say this out loud. This is what he was thinking. These are all senior executives. That means it was an expensive meeting. I mean, to pull out the VP of accounting, the VP of marketing, VP of finance, all that to have a meeting is a very expensive meeting for a company. They clearly have something to talk about, or they clearly have a pain point. These people don't have time to waste on a meeting otherwise. So it did look like that they were going to buy the upgrade that he was trying to sell. So he changed it all completely, and he asked a different question. He said, well, money aside, what processes would you change right now? And he asked that because there were all these people in the room. Well, they all started talking. They started talking about what's going wrong, what matters to them. They basically laid out a task order for him. And by taking really detailed notes, he was able to come back and close a very significant deal. So when you're in a situation where a dialogue isn't going anywhere, say this: money aside, what processes would you change right now? Here's another question that you can ask. If a storm knocked out power at your office for many days, how would your staff work? You could follow that up with, how would you reach your clients? So if you went in and started pitching data backup or remote access, people might not always understand it, but they can get their head around a question like this: if a storm knocked out power at your office for many days. Switch that around if you like. If a hurricane or earthquake damaged your office or your equipment, how would you recover your data? This is a great way to sell data backup solutions. In last fall, in the east coast of the United States, there was a hurricane that came by, Hurricane Sandy, and it was supposed to hit the Washington, D.C. area, as well as the New York area. It was supposed to hit the entire east coast. And all the news reports were talking about how to get ready for the storm. So people were out there in the grocery stores buying milk, buying bread, buying eggs. The store shelves were completely cleared up. But many people didn't even think about what they need to do to prevent their business from eroding. Not from the physical damage, because that would also destroy it, but if you destroyed all the data, that's even more serious. And you might have seen pictures and videos of the damage that actually occurred. It was quite devastating. So if you see some kind of big storm coming around your area and it passes, or maybe even right before the storm is supposed to hit, you can actually try to sell some of these data backup services, because you could be saving somebody a tremendous amount of grief. Another question you can ask is, have you calculated the cost of the time your staff loses due to technology bottlenecks? This is something they might never have thought of before. Are they just stuck in these repetitive tools, repetitive tasks that you might be able to automate for them? Another one, is there any software or tool holding you back from getting things done more efficiently? Well, if you're comfortable, you could even ask your client if you could follow them around and just see what kind of things that they do. What tools are they using? How are they using them? And is there a way you could make that work better for them? Along the same line, ask, how much time does your staff spend doing XYZ? You could name your process: billing, claims, accounting procedures, contacting people remotely, writing articles, whatever it is. Just talk to them about what time does your staff spend doing it. And then the follow-up would be, well, what would improve if you reduce this time? Again, that's another way of saying, does that matter? Here's a good one you can ask lots of people. What's the most common support question you get from your staff? Oftentimes the support questions are related to technology, and I don't mean just something simple like, well, how do you do a mail merge in Word or something like that, but sometimes they might have other questions too. So if you start to see patterns of questions being asked over and over, you can start to find technological solutions for these. You can ask the same question for your clients. What's the most common support question you get from your clients? You might be able to come out with some kind of really innovative solution for your client to help them resolve their issue there. Here's a question, or a few questions, that go along the lines of helping a company grow. So if they're starting to grow, they're going to need different technologies or improved technologies. So you can ask them something like this: what kind of growth are you expecting in the next 12 months? Now, if they don't really know how to answer that, here's another way to ask it. How many new employees do you expect to hire in the next 12 months? That will give you a sense of their growth as well. And then lead that dialogue into this question: what kind of infrastructure changes will you need to support this growth? So this could mean additional seats of computers that need to be maintained. It could mean additional data backup procedures, maybe all kinds of other stuff. But asking about the infrastructure first is kind of putting the cart before the horse. Talk about what kind of growth plans they have, and then when you see that they actually have growth plans, asking the question about infrastructure makes a lot of sense. It's put in a much better context. So use that as a 1-2 punch. Here's a question about productivity. How are you managing productivity within your organization? They might not know how to answer that exactly, so you can say something again like, well, how do you feel, or do you feel certain processes are preventing you from producing more? You'd be surprised what you might cover. When training new employees, what are the typical issues that you encounter? Now, when a company grows and has multiple offices, communication is the most important link to keep productivity and consistent processes and the corporate culture in check. So you can dig a little bit to find out how a business owner feels about this as the company spreads across multiple locations. And this is a great question to ask. As you grow, how will you effectively manage communications and data between your locations? So again, you're asking this question in a way that gets them thinking about their business. You're making it about them, not about you. Again, if you went in and started saying, well, we can do this for you, we can provide remote access, we can provide telecommuters access, we can provide extra data security, and we can provide data backup and all this stuff between your different offices, they're just hearing you babble. If you instead ask questions like this that get them to start thinking, you're doing a whole host of things. First, because you're asking intelligent questions, you're looking smart, and people are going to hire smart people. So the other thing it does, it really builds on your level of expertise, builds your credibility. Here's some more questions that I enjoy asking some clients here. How do you handle network security for your teleworkers? Maybe toss out some kind of horror stories that maybe some of your other clients have experienced with teleworker security issues. Here's something that everybody could relate to. What could happen to your data, to your network access, to your website, if a staff member lost a company laptop at an airport? Now, nobody thinks that something could get stolen. You know, when I go outside of the parking lot, I'm going to presume my car is going to be there. I don't think something's going to get stolen. But losing something at an airport, we all hear about things like that. So frame the question to them that way. What would happen to your data if somebody lost a company laptop at an airport? You know, several years ago, there was a lot of data from a U.S. government agency, it was the Veterans Administration, that had a lot of sensitive data on someone's laptop, which got stolen from a parking lot. Somebody broke into a car, stole that data. And of course they had to report it, and it made headline news. It was a major fiasco, a big headache for the government, because the data wasn't encrypted on that laptop. So think about these kind of scenarios and talk to your clients about what kind of questions or issues that might be able to come up here. So along the lines of the data security questions, you could say, what safeguards do you have in place to prevent a security breach? There may be questions that people haven't even thought about. From my experience in running a software as a service company, many people want high-level security but don't understand, or in many cases aren't willing to put up with the inconvenience of having that high-level security, such as multiple layers of authentication. So there was a case maybe a year or two ago where Apple supposedly got hacked. So a 19-year-old socially engineered Amazon and Apple. And he used this information that he was able to figure out from Google to get into a journalist's Apple account and delete all of his data, including a year's worth of pictures of his baby girl that he had not backed up. This is a technology journalist, somebody who should know better, who writes about this kind of stuff all the time. All of that data was lost because somebody wanted to take over this guy's Twitter handle, and he just wanted to socially engineer all these 3 giant companies to get that data. You can read about the incident online, but it goes to show that even a technology journalist, someone who knew a lot about hacking and even writes about it, didn't take sufficient precautions. This journalist wrote later on that if he had just added Google's 2-step authentication, all of this could have been prevented. So share stories like this with your clients or your prospects and see, hey, look, if this can, tell them if this can happen to somebody who's really well versed in the technology, what could happen to somebody on your staff? So then follow it up with questions like this. In the event of a security breach, what process do you have in place to restore your company's data? If this kind of thing can happen to journalists just like that, imagine what can happen to your clients. Share those stories. Introduce what's called the FUD factor, F-U-D. It stands for fear, uncertainty, and doubt. How does your data security process differ if it's an internal breach or an external hacker? Ask about the different ways that they deal with security, if they're different at all. I mean, you could also ask, what additional measures would you like to put in place in order to protect your company's data and your customers' data? So for those of you who work on websites or even thinking about your own website, if a customer's first interaction with you was your website, what would you hope they do? And then follow it up by saying, what do you think they really do? And you might get into some pain points. What are some of the recent mobile support options you've explored? There are a lot of companies that don't even know you can do all kinds of technological things through your phone. I mean, they might have an iPhone. They might be able to get on Facebook and all that kind of stuff from their iPhone, maybe check their email. But they might not know that they can actually do some remote monitoring and things like that that you've got licked cold with their phone. So talk to them about some of the mobile monitoring options that they might not know about. Here's one thing that you might ask as you walk into a client's office. How long do you usually keep equipment like computers, printers, and phones? Now, if you see some office that's got computers dated back to maybe they got a LaserJet 3 from 10, 15 years ago or something, maybe longer than that, you might say that, well, they probably don't invest in technology very often, so those dialogues might not go somewhere. But if you change the framing of a question, instead of saying how often you upgrade something, would you like to upgrade? You should upgrade your PCs. You should upgrade to Windows 8, 8.1. Have you thought about those things? Instead of asking questions like that, change the frame. Say this: have you explored a business case to see if you should upgrade to, and then whatever you want to upgrade to? This is completely different than framing the question like, would you like to upgrade your services? Or saying, here's why you should upgrade your services. It's completely different. This way of phrasing it changes the angle that they view the issue. It's no longer looking at it as an expense. See, when you think upgrade, you think expense sometimes. But when you think business case, you think investment. Have you explored a business case to see if you should upgrade to Windows 8? Here's another question about business planning. This is a great question to ask toward the end of the year or at the beginning of the year or the fiscal year, depending on when somebody's budget cycle is. What were some of your successes from last year? How will you capitalize on these successes this year? See if you can find an opportunity in their answer. Again, these questions aren't relating to just technology. You're trying to get a holistic view of their business because technology infiltrates all avenues of someone's business. Along the same lines of the business planning type of questions, you can ask, well, what were some of your missed opportunities or failures from last year? Are they still important? What are your plans for this year? Again, see if you can find an opportunity in their answer. Try to help them gain an understanding of how your technological solutions might help them overcome some of these issues going forward. Another one of my favorites. Very few people think of asking this question. If your MSP targets doctors or dentists, they need to comply with all kinds of regulations. In the U.S., they're called HIPAA regulations. And there are probably many other regulations in different countries. Your clients need to use technology to ease that burden of compliance. And so there may be some other legislation that might be coming down the pike. something that's on a state level, maybe a federal level. So if you ask them, are you aware of any upcoming legislation that could affect your business? They're probably going to say no. Now, the interesting thing is you might even be able to help them answer this question for them. If you're not already doing so, start reading some of the publications and the blogs that your clients read. Not just stuff about your industry, but if you target lawyers, if you target doctors, I mean, you don't have to go read medical journals or something like that, but start reading information and blogs or posts about how medical offices are keeping themselves up to date. This way you're going to stay tuned in to what might affect them. There is nothing more compelling to a client than for you to tell them something like some legislation coming down the pike that's going to affect their business before they know about it. It really shows that you're looking out for them. One way you can do this too and get information about your clients, I strongly recommend you do this. In fact, maybe right after the webinar, go ahead and set this up for some of your clients, your biggest clients or your biggest targets, your prospects. Set up Google Alerts. What you do is just go type in the word Google Alerts into Google, and it'll come back with a little instruction set on how to do it. You can also visit our blog. If you go to blog.prestacular.com, one of our more recent posts is about how to do this. It's a complete step-by-step guide on how to set up Google Alerts. What this does, it tells you when your clients and your prospects are in the news. So when you see something positive written about them, send them a short email, something like, hey Bob, just saw your latest partnership announcement in the Gazette today. Great news, keep up the good work. That's all you're saying. You're not contacting them saying, hey, we've got a special on so-and-so. You're not doing any of that. All you're doing is saying, I'm touching base with you. Your clients are going to be flattered that someone that they know, or maybe they even don't know, saw them in the news and cared enough to write them about it. Here's a question I like to ask also. Well, what really happens if you don't meet certain goals this year? Some prospects and clients talk about a wish list, and when push comes to shove, it's just that. It's a wish list. There's nothing compelling them to make a move because there's no real consequence. To find out if they really need something that you're proposing, ask what the consequences are going to be if they don't implement it. You also need to find out if their budget is realistic. And the last thing you want to face is a client who wants to buy a Mercedes-Benz and their budget is for a scooter. This type of question will give you insight into whether there's a disconnect between the perceived value and reality. Ask them, what are your expectations for the investment needed to meet these goals? Now here's a question that may sometimes make some people uncomfortable, but it's worth asking. Your clients may be falling behind their competition just because they are not using modern technology solutions. I'll give you an example. One doctor's office I know still uses a paper calendar book to schedule appointments. They don't even take credit cards. Now, if anything happened to their logbook, that would cause complete mayhem. I mean, to people like you and me, we can't imagine our life not revolving around a synced calendar that automatically backs up to the cloud, so you've got it available on your iPhone, your iPad, your web browser, your home computer, your office computer. We can't imagine a life without that, but there are people still working on paper. When you've studied something that was non-technical all your life and you don't read up on the latest things that happens with technology, all this stuff looks like magic, and that might be happening at that doctor's office. They might not really even know how much they can do with technology. A streamlined solution could mean things like this, and listen, there are benefits to them. You don't want to say, well, we could make your calendar available here. They're not buying features, they're buying benefits. They're buying things like this. A solution could provide faster payments from insurance companies, automatic electronic referrals and prescriptions so that there's less paperwork and everything's accurately logged. All this could mean more money in the doctor's pocket. That's the kind of stuff that they're going to listen to. Maybe you can ask them what their competitors are selling in that they're not. The other thing I'd recommend is when you go to pitch a doctor's office, give them a white paper called 10 best IT practices for your doctor's office. Now, a doctor is going to read that. Even the ones who are technologically adept and have things, they want to know what is it that they could be doing better. These are smart people. So offer a white paper like that. You could probably just jot this down really quickly and know what kind of solutions you'd be able to provide. Now here's one. What might cause one of your clients to choose a competitor? This one might get them where it hurts. I mean, nobody likes to talk about why someone would choose a competitor. There could be a lot of reasons. But if you want to look for an area where your technology services can help, this could be a good opening question for that. Now, if their real problem is that one of their account reps is a difficult person, there's probably not much you're going to be able to do about that. But if the issue is getting proposals out faster by having all of their boilerplate material in a very organized, easily accessible location that they can use from home, work, tablet, you can probably give them an edge. Remember, don't give them a solution until you know that you've identified a real problem. Keep digging for these pain points. This is an open-ended question that might not involve technology at all. What kind of things do you feel would make you more profitable? This is a good question to ask because you just want to find out what the client's thinking. I mean, every business owner is thinking about profits. Maybe they need to make a new product. Maybe they need to extend their support hours. You know, if that's the case, can your technology help them extend support hours remotely so people can still work from home and provide support? Can your technology solutions reduce their expenses, and will that help their bottom line? Could a new billing or reporting system help? So you're looking for these areas where you can start to find out how you can actually help them improve profits. So the question doesn't start out with technology. The question starts out with, what could make you more profitable? Along the same line of thinking, have you looked for areas in which you might have hidden expenses? Most of us don't recognize how much time we waste. While a business owner, maybe a client of yours, perhaps strives to be efficient, he might not know about the productivity of his staff. Are there monitors that you can put in place to check how much time that his staff or her staff spends surfing Facebook or eBay? Is there a way to eliminate repetitive human tasks through automation? Now, if you feel comfortable enough, offer to spend part of a morning with them just following them around. Take notes on what you find and present a report on the inefficiencies that you can help with. And don't be a tattletale on other people. Just present it as a problem-solution case in a very politically correct and a professional manner. Now, in the early days of the Internet, when I was building my first company called GovCon, I was asked to present some technical options for the CEO of a 1,000-person company. They were a government contractor. He brought my company in because we had a very strong reputation for helping government contractors just like his. He had a reputation of being tough as nails. I was not looking forward to this meeting. So as we started the conversation, I asked about the issues. And every time I'd ask a question, he'd just reply back with a really fast quip. Every turn I took, he would just shut me down. He wasn't giving me any room to have a productive dialogue. This is the Mr. Know-It-All. So I asked him this question. I can see that you have a lot of these issues in good hands. So what were you hoping to address by having me come here today? Well, after asking this question, it completely turned the tables. Instead of shooting down everything I said, this question gave him the opportunity to stop attacking me and actually to start opening up. And at the same time, it acknowledged his need for showing off that he had the most of his technology issues under control. But it really started getting him to talk, and we were actually able to provide a really solid solution for him. Now, some people, especially the Mr. Know-It-Alls, delude themselves into thinking that the solution that they've implemented is the cat's meow. It is the best solution because they're the ones that thought of it. If you know you can offer a better option, use this two-part question to diffuse that Mr. Know-It-All encounter. ask them this. When they tell you, well, if you ask them, well, what are you doing about data backup? What are you doing about this? Ask them, well, how is that working out for you? And are you getting the results you want from that solution? Now you can ask other things, things like, well, is your data backup secure? Is it encrypted? How can you remotely access it? Things like that. But you just want to get a sense of how is it working out for them. This usually forces them to acknowledge their problems, and it gives you a chance to delve deeper into ways that you can help. If you have several people in the meeting, you're going to start to see them bringing up topics that are on their minds. Maybe something isn't working out so rosy. So remember this, don't provide a solution immediately. When they say, can you do this? Don't say, yes, I can. Say, tell me more about what you're looking to do. Again, resist that urge to offer a solution right away. And remember, try to find out what they might be thinking, what they might need, before you even call them up, using that educational material that I'd mentioned. Make sure you don't chase the wrong problem. So if you ask a question like this, if you could integrate your desktops, mobile devices, and your telephone system, would that be worth pursuing? Figure out how much that would save them. Those are ways to actually help close those deals. You're doing what they call mini closes along the way, along your entire dialogue. And make sure that it is a need that they want. These nice-to-have projects, they don't get funded. Here's a strategy that I'd like to close with. Ask for a testimonial before you get the contract. Client testimonials are a very powerful way to spread the word about your happy customers. It also enables you to create case studies that you can share with prospects. So one of my clients brings up the idea of doing a testimonial on the first day of his sales process. He lets the client know that getting a testimonial at the end of the project is a goal for the entire project team. Think about what this does. Now, without him coming out and saying it, he's actually communicating up front that he is so confident in his company's ability to deliver results that he's practically expecting them to write a testimonial. Well, that leaves a strong impression in a prospect's mind. You can almost hear their thought process. Usually vendors think about asking for a testimonial at the end of a consulting engagement. Here's this guy talking about it before he's even hired. Well, that takes confidence, so he must be pretty good. Well, he's very consistently impressed with the results. Clients usually provide a testimonial if his technical results are impressive. Remember, the more you ask, the more you're going to uncover, and that will allow you to sell. The more you will sell. If you'd like some help, I've written a book that you might like. It's a #1 bestseller on Amazon. It's one of the only books that goes into modern marketing strategies just for managed service providers. In fact, it's available in print as well as Kindle editions, and if you don't have a Kindle, you can get a free Kindle Reader app for your iPad or your PC from Amazon. And just go to itmarketingbook.com. In fact, I think it's really cheap right now. Amazon's got this just for about under $3, so well worth the investment in helping you accelerate some of your sales. Some other thoughts you might have is if you want more information on a time saver tool for your marketing efforts, our tool, Prestacular, lets you create your IT newsletter and blog instantly using a library of pre-written articles that you can edit. So you can actually pepper in a lot of terms for your search engine optimization and so on, all automatically from this large library of IT-related articles for business people. It also includes white papers that are branded with your logo and your contact information on the cover. And this is educational information that people are going to read. It's not brochures that they're going to throw away, so it'll position you as that expert resource. And it also includes live reports and all kinds of analytics to show you who's reading, who's clicking, ready to buy. It's very easy to use. As an IT services company, if you were to service a client and needed to unlock their computer case, you wouldn't try to unscrew all of the nuts and bolts by hand. That would take forever, and you might rip up your fingernails trying to do it. Instead, you'd probably reach for your toolbox to get the right tools to unlock it quickly and painlessly. Well, Prestacular is that toolbox that's going to unlock your marketing. You can see a video of it, of how it works, and request a demo at prestacular.com, or you can contact us. And there's a bonus for attending today. As I mentioned at the start of the webinar, I'm going to send you a copy of our guidebook, The Most Effective Ways to Start a sales call by email. It's a large checklist that gives you the right questions to ask to your prospects and to your clients to get them talking in all kinds of different scenarios. So there is my contact information. Scott, thank you very much. We're open for questions if you have a list of questions.
All right, yeah, thanks a lot, Raj. Wow, got some great information there. We've already got people who are ready for your next webinar, so they're looking forward to the book. So we'll get stuff. I guess you'll get that out next week or the next couple of days, huh, Raj? Okay.
Yep. So as soon as I get the list of attendees, we're out. Yep.
Okay, so I'll let everybody know, because we did have a few questions about this. As I said, we are recording this. We're still recording it right now. Watch your email inbox for the link from GoToMeeting. It's like an automated email that goes out, and you'll get a link to the where you can watch this on MSP Business Management. It'll have the slides in the video. You can download an MP3. It'll also be on iTunes. So there'll be a few different places where you can go and check this out. Okay, Raj, let me get right down to this now. Okay, actually, this one just kind of came in from Kathy, and I'll go ahead and start with this one. We've got a few minutes here, so everyone, thank you very much for attending. Thanks for sending these questions in, and we'll go right to it here, Raj. Kathy is wanting to know, how do you tailor a social media approach when targeting only local businesses?
So if you're only targeting local businesses, you can put in terms that include your city or your community, things like that, maybe buzzwords that center around your local community. The way social media works, especially on Twitter, you can use these things called hashtags. What a hashtag is for those of you who may not be familiar with the clever ways to use Twitter, is when you see the pound sign, the number sign right before a word. So I'll give you an example in my local area. My city is called Rockville, Maryland. So if I wanted to share some news with people about something that was going on in Rockville, or maybe some data back about maybe some DC area, I might put in my tweet or my social media post the hashtag after I put my post in, put or Rockville or Maryland, the things that you may be posting out on social media. So I hope that helps answer some of your questions there.
Yeah, I think we lost you a little bit there, Raj. You were talking about Twitter hashtags. I was just trying to pull up a really quick email. Yeah, that was one of the first things when people don't really think about Twitter that much, but when you find out about hashtags, then that's usually, that kind of unlocks a whole new world.
That's correct. So yeah, sorry if there's a little glitch in the audio there. Let me just, what I was saying about the hashtags is it's the number sign that happens, it's the number sign character followed by a word. So if you want to put in your geography, so if you're in one city and you want to put in pound sign Houston, pound sign New York, that will help localize or help people understand that, okay, this is more of a local flavor for that social media post. And people use those hashtags to search for things that might be going on in this particular area.
Yeah, excellent. I just sent a link out to everybody there so you can read up on that a little bit more.
Great.
Let's see. Mitul had a question here. Okay, I might be a little specific. Let's try this. How do you tackle situations where the client doesn't pay for service provider services but only buys OEM products?
So they only want to buy products, but they don't want to buy services. Is that my understanding of the question?
That's what I think it is. Yeah, that was a little.
So you want to try to get them to actually purchase services? Well, the biggest thing that you can show a client is what the benefit would be for them to actually provide it. Now, if you try to sell services by pitching the actual services and the features of those services and what you're going to bring to the table, that's probably not the best approach for it. So instead, this whole series of questions that we went through just now in the last hour, start asking some of those questions. What's going to make you more profitable? What kind of what would happen if your computer data was lost at a laptop was lost at an airport? Ask those questions, because then you start to get the client thinking. Again, get out of that mindset of being in a sales monologue. You want to be in a sales dialogue, two people talking. And again, if you're doing most of the talking, that means you're not giving them a chance to talk. So frame the situation. Ask these leading questions. And that guidebook that I have, I'll show you a bunch of other questions. Actually, it's got a lot of these questions in there in the situation to use them. And as they start talking about some of their pain points, that's where you can introduce options for services like data backup. I mean, right now, we're actually going to have a blog post about this coming out in the next couple of weeks. There is a massive opportunity for data backup for every MSP. I'll tell you why. Because CryptoLocker, that malware that is out there right now, is getting everybody very scared. If you look on Google Trends, that's one of the most popular search terms right now on Google is the word CryptoLocker. And for those of you, if you're not familiar with it, it's a virus that if your computer gets infected, it will basically encrypt, in very high-level encryption, all of your data on your computer. And then they put up a little note saying, pay us $300 and we'll give you the decryption key. So that's a big threat. If, however, your data was backed up remotely, you kind of have a little bit of play there. You don't even know if people are going to, if the paying them $300 is going to work. So if you can go out there and talk to people about this malware, that's what people are calling probably the worst malware piece that ever came out in the last 10 years. You can probably close a lot of services-related stuff, not just the backup stuff. So I hope that helps answer your question.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, that's a good one. Always, you know, that's another in your content marketing arsenal that can go there. You know, if you put out put something in your newsletter or a blog post about that.
That's right.
Let's see, we got some time just for a couple more here, Raj. I want to thank you for your time. Thank you, everyone, again for being here. Mike had a kind of a specific one. He was wondering, how long do you spend on the initial pitch of a sales call before you ask the first open question?
Well, so here's the way I would approach this. So if you're calling somebody up, and let's say that you've emailed them, you know, different articles, and maybe you sent them an article on CryptoLocker and how to prevent being abused by CryptoLocker, which is actually one of the articles that's going to be included in our arsenal or library that our clients would be able to use. So so let's say you sent that article out and you saw that a whole bunch of people clicked on that article. Well, when you talk to them, you call them up and you say, hey Joe, we've got some really interesting things that might be, you know, to help in your data backup solutions that could prevent that CryptoLocker from really attacking your company. Would you be open to exploring some ideas on that? And so you want to get them talking about the stuff that they've clicked on in those articles. And if you know what they're interested in, it really changes the dynamic of the dialogue. You know, if someone knows that I'm definitely interested in a particular topic and they start talking to me about that topic, they're going to have a much better chance of getting a better dialogue than if they talk to me about something completely different. So knowing what their hot buttons are ahead of time really changes the approach you can take.
Okay, excellent. We'll finish off with one here that I think was kind of will hopefully tie everything together here. Robert was asking about what is your opinion of cold calling and does it work?
Yeah, there's a lot of mixed reviews about cold calling. I think cold calling can be challenging, and there are a lot of people who say cold calling does not work for them, and every now and then you'll see somebody that says, oh, I just got a $30,000 client because of doing cold calling. Well, you may have mixed results. I've seen a lot of people waste a lot of time and a lot of money targeting people who are not qualified. And so it really boils down to the group that you're going after. So if, for example, you went out and got a list of dentist offices in your area and you started calling all of them, you may not have the best results unless you've got something that is really of benefit to dentist office, something that they might not be able to acquire otherwise, some knowledge that they might not be able to acquire otherwise. So really, it can boil down to the list. Sometimes these lists are outdated. Most people don't pick up their phones if they don't recognize them on the caller on the caller ID, so it could go to voicemail. So there's other strategies that you could use to try to get somebody to call back. But one of the best ways to actually make all of this work is by starting to just pepper in education. You know, if I were to go out and buy a car, and all I got was a sales call from somebody saying, hey, we've got the best price of this car, I might call them back, but I might not. I might think, well, maybe I want a different car. But if on the web I found something that showed me, a buyer's guide, a review guide. Here's why you should buy this car, maybe not buy that car, because of the reviews or because of the reliability or something. That's stuff that I'm doing. I'm educating myself. So if you call somebody and they're not interested, at the very least, ask them if they would like a white paper on the following topic. I'll give you an example. We have one white paper called what is it? It's the common fixes for sluggish computers. Now, everybody feels that their computer's too slow. I mean, if they just bought one, maybe not, but most people will feel their computer's too slow. And this guide goes into all kinds of ways that you might be able to fix a computer, make it go running a little bit faster. So if you were to call somebody up about services that you could provide, managed services, and maybe they weren't interested, maybe lead with something about, hey, we've got a free guide called Common Fixes to Sluggish Computers. Would you be interested in that? And offer that as a freebie to them. Now, that allows you to start having a dialogue, because then you've got a reason to follow up. You can call them up and say, hey, just wanted to check in. Did you have a chance to take a look at that white paper? There's some other things we might be able to help you with. You can really start to shape how you nurture that lead. So that's kind of a long way of saying, yeah, cold calling works, but you really should apply other techniques to it. Don't just get out there and start beating the phones, because you'd probably be wasting a lot of time. If you took that time and spent it a little bit more intelligently up front and kind of nurtured the leads that you've got and started to see who's really interested, then you can actually start to select and say, oh, I know these people are interested in data security because they're the ones that are reading these types of articles. It really changes that dynamic.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, thanks, Roger. We've got one last one. I promised this gentleman I'd ask it, because this actually does tie into your last one there. Nick was asking a question. Basically, he was wanting to know about, what do you think about case studies, and how do you think they help with indirect sales? I think
I love case studies. Absolutely love case studies. I think they are one of the best ways. They're basically long client testimonials, and I think every chance you have to use a case study, do it, because case studies really talk about stories, and people understand things through stories. So just referring back to one of the questions where I talked about asking somebody what would happen if if your laptop was lost at an airport. That's almost like a mini story. You can visualize it, you can see that happening, and you can see your own life, your business playing out in that scenario. Very different than saying, do you think we could help you with some data backup solutions? I mean, that's like almost a meaningless question. People can't get their head around data backup or data security, but they can get around losing a laptop. So you're almost presenting a mini case study in a question like that. So if you have clients and you can go out there and just say, hey, well, here's the issue that they were facing, here's the solutions that we came up with, and here's the benefit that they received from that. Just a one-sheet little thing, quick, some bullet points on problems, solutions, things like that. I would strongly recommend it. I would also strongly recommend that you send that out in your client newsletter, because you might be working on a project that has some bearing on other clients or prospects that they don't even know about. And just by you talking about this and how you solve this problem and that kind of stuff, that really really helps with your sales process. So so I will close with this statement: facts tell, stories sell.
Excellent. You can't really beat that. We'll close on that, Raj. Just want to thank you, my guest, Mr. Raj Khera, for being here. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, and we'll do our best to get you back again real soon. This is a great webinar. We had lots of people here today. As I said, everyone, watch your email box for those links. You'll get the links to where you can download, watch, and also Raj will be sending you the link to his ebook as well. And that's me. I'm the editor of MSP Business Management. I want to thank my guest again, Mr. Khera. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Any final thoughts before we go here?
I think we're good, Scott. Thank you very much, and yeah, we'll look forward to the next one.
Okay, thanks a lot, everyone. Thanks for listening, and watch your email box for that information. All right, everyone. Bye.